Yo, what's going on YouTube, and welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy Kevin Forte, and I know guys, this is the video you guys have been waiting for. The three-team trade. This is a big trade. You look at the three teams involved, the New York Islanders, the Montreal Canadiens, and the Chicago Blackhawks, all in very separate places of their timeline. The New York Islanders are coming off a year where they missed the playoffs, the 13th worst team in the National Hockey League according to the draft, and they bottomed out. They weren't very good, and there was some questions about their defense and their forward group, and I'll probably make another video on what could have been. They were in the rumor to go after JT Miller. I could probably make a whole video about that, and I probably will. The Islanders are the team looking to get back to the promised land, get to the playoffs next year, go on a deep playoff run. The Blackhawks are sell. Selling all their draft picks, selling all their prospects, and even players on the team. DeBrincat's gone, and Kirby Dock, and that's the guy we're going to focus on for the Blackhawks today. And the same thing for the Montreal Canadiens. They were just a good mediator of this trade, and they picked up some prospects and draft picks in this deal as well. They picked up a draft pick. So let's start off with the top of the morning, what we were hearing. And we've heard this for the last couple months, that Kirby Dock has fallen out of favor of the new management, right? The Blackhawks want to be a more, think of the Arizona Coyotes, what they've been doing. They've got Clayton Keller, Dylan Guenther, Morgan Geekie, Logan Cooley, smaller guys that are more quick and playmakers, and they have more of the scoring sniper side of things. Kirby Dock is more of the old power forward. He can play rough in the corners and stuff like that. And the Blackhawks that's not what they want on their team. And that's where you need a team to step in and kind of help mediate that trade. And this is where Kirby Dock steps into the equation. So Kirby Dock talk is really heating up. Columbus and Detroit are in play. The Hawks won a first. We'll see where it all goes. And that was John Dietz on the morning of the draft. Now we start to hear more reports. Just heard the Islanders deal for Canucks JT Miller fell through last second, and Lou Lamoriello decided to go another route with Alexander Romanov. And we are going to cover that because that is a very interesting part of this deal. So, where do we start? So we're going to start with the Montreal Canadiens. So the Montreal Canadiens trade out Alexander Romanov, who is a defenseman, and he's about to become a restricted free agent this summer, and a 2022 fourth-round draft pick. That is what's going to... Actually, a couple things go to the Montreal Canadiens. The Montreal Canadiens trade out Alexander Romanov signing rights this summer, a 2022 fourth-round pick, which the 98th pick in this year's draft, and they also trade to the Blackhawks a 2022 third-round pick, and that's the 66th selection. Very interesting here to see how this has kind of played out. So that's what the Blackhawks trade out. They acquire the 2022 first-round pick, which ends up being the 13th selection. That ends up being Frank Nazar. That's the New York Islanders draft pick, formerly. And they pick up a 2022 third-round pick, and that's Montreal's third-round pick in this year's draft. So the Blackhawks acquire Frank Nazar and a third-round pick. What did the Montreal Canadiens acquire? The Montreal Canadiens acquire Kirby Dock's signing rights. He's due for a new contract this summer, and Kirby Dock is no longer a member of the Blackhawks. And you guys remember that 2019 NHL draft, Alexis Lafreniere, Capo Caco, and Kirby Dock. And Kirby Dock has had a tough, really, year and a half, 2 years. I remember he was the captain as one of the older kids, one of the older guys in the World Junior Championships before the season. And there's always this debate of should NHL players be allowed to play? And he did ask for permission. Stan Bowman and the Blackhawks brass allowed him to go. He goes and gets a freak injury, a bad hit, totally screwed him up the entire season. And Kirby Dock was never really the same after that. So he was hurt most of last season. Then he ends up, that was 2 years ago. He comes back last season, just didn't look himself. He played all right, but wasn't himself, clearly. So the Blackhawks are probably thinking, do we want to invest a 3, 4, 5-year deal in this kid? And we don't necessarily know where he fits on our team in the future. He doesn't fit our philosophy. And now there's that little bit of an injury tag. There's that little bit of doubt. Is he going to be good enough to play here? So that's where the Chicago Blackhawks send him to the Montreal Canadiens. The Canadiens acquire the signing rights to Kirby Dock. They're probably going to sign him, I would assume. And you look right now at the Canadian side of this trade, they pick up another center. You look at the Montreal Canadiens in general right now. Their center core consists of Nick Suzuki, Christian Dvorak, Paul Byron, Jake Evans, Ryan Poehling. I don't see them coming back, and Kirby Dock. So where does Kirby Dock fit there? Is he a third-line winger, or is he a third-line center? Is he definitely not a top-6 center? I don't see him knocking out Dvorak or Suzuki. But again, if Chicago is going to trade what... I don't understand this. I don't understand why Montreal... I guess they got involved because the Islanders side of it, but they pick up Kirby Dock. I don't necessarily like this trade for the Habs. The fact they only got Kirby Dock leaves me scratching my head here. I'm not really sure what Montreal's doing. Because when you think in context, what did they trade? Montreal gave up a lot. They gave up... So they gave up a 4th-round pick and a 3rd-round pick. Excuse me, I might have said a 2nd-round pick earlier. They gave up a 3rd. They gave up Alexander Romanov, a 3rd, and a 4th-round pick for Kirby Dock. I don't know what that's about. I don't understand. That to me, that's a stinker trade, in my opinion. I don't like that for the Habs. I think they had a good draft, but I don't think this was the move for them, in my opinion. I think this was a tough move for them. I think they're the losers of this trade overall. Chicago picks up Frank Nazar and a 3rd-round pick. Nazar is probably going to be a top 6 center. I think that's the hope, at the very least, a 3rd-line center. So that's what you're looking at there. Now we get to the Islanders side of things, because this is one that it's a Lou Lamoriello trade. And the context behind it is, of course, why Islanders fans are upset. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, the Islanders were supposedly about to finish a trade with the Vancouver Canucks, which would have involved the Islanders trading the 13th selection to the Vancouver Canucks for JT Miller. Now, hold on a sec. Here's where I have the problem. So the Islanders trade their 13th pick for Alexander Romanov and a 4th-round pick. So they did pretty well in this trade, in my book. Now, here's the thing. One, the Islanders have to re-sign this kid. That's the first thing. So, depending on the number the Islanders sign Alexander Romanov for, might also differ in the taste or distaste for this trade. That's the first part of this. The second part of it as well is one of two things is going to happen with Alexander Romanov. There's two clubs. The one club is this is a young defenseman that the Islanders, we know how Lou Lamoriello is with his contracts. He's very stingy with them. Lou Lamoriello is going to get a good contract for this kid. That's the hope, right? He's going to take a Pulla contract or an Adam Pelech-esque contract, right? You could look at it that sense, right? He's 22 years old, extremely young, coming off of his ELC. Big defenseman, right? I mean, he had at least 10 or 12 highlight reel open ice hits in the last 2 seasons. I mean, the kid is big boy, and Lou was probably drooling. 6'1", 210 pounds. The kid's a monster, right? No doubt about that. And there's also the mindset that the Habs fans were pretty upset that they traded Alexander Romanov. There was a lot of distaste losing this kid. He was a fan favorite up there. Again, probably the reason why he's going to become a fan favorite for the Islanders is he lays big hits, right? Totally fits the Islanders mold. Is probably going to replace Zdeno Chara. And you look at the Islanders defense now, you're looking at a top 4 defense of Adam Pelech, Ryan Pulock, Noah Dobson, and Alexander Romanov. That's a pretty solid top 4. Much better than the top 4 they had last season. And listen, Zdeno Chara, Andy Green, all my condolences to you guys, but you guys are not Alexander Romanov. Romanov's the same type of player, but much younger. And that's where the critique is for this trade. This is where Lou's a boomer. He's a dinosaur. A kid that picked up 13 points last season. You're going to trade the 13th overall pick for a guy that had 13 points in an entire season last year. This kid has no offensive upside. What are you doing? That's where people are against this trade. And the other knock against Alexander Romanov is the fact that he is, again, because he lays those open ice hits and kind of quote-unquote crown walls people, sometimes he gets exposed. Guys will go around him, and it creates odd man rushes where probably Adam Pelech will be stuck as that lone defenseman, or Ryan Pulock will be that lone defenseman. Chances are I do see him playing with Noah Dobson, but because of how good that Pelech-Pulock pairing is, it's probably going to be Pelech-Pulock, Dobson, Romanov, and then fill out the rest with Scott Mayfield, depending on what they do with some of the young guys like Robin Salo or Sebastian Aho. I don't really know what they're doing with those guys, but those type of players, the Islanders will probably keep one of those veterans, either Green or Chara, or they'll go get someone in free agency as a mentor for some of those guys. I'm of the opinion, let's wait and see. Overall, as of today, I do like this trade for the Islanders. I think the Islanders were the winner of the trade. Now, again, oh, he's an Islander fan, be biased. No, come on. If you've been watching this channel long enough, you know that I will definitely give Lou the coffin if this ends up being a bad trade. Because I've seen the Islanders make bad trades before. And again, the problem with the Islanders here is it's a risky move. It's risky in the sense that if Frank Nazar becomes a top 6 center and a goal scorer, that's going to hurt. And you also consider the fact that the Islanders maybe didn't get the trade done for JT Miller. The problem I have with that, and I'm going to make a video about it, but the Islanders, they're upset because they didn't trade for JT Miller. Oh, we need more goal scoring. We need 100-point defense, 100-plus point players. Fair. But did you see the trade proposal? Did anybody here see the trade proposal for what might have been that JT Miller trade? Because last time I checked, the Vancouver Canucks were asking for a hefty, handsome, royalty-type enrichment in return. It would have been the 13th pick, and this is my assumption. This is my guess. The 13th selection, Oliver Wahlstrom, and probably Bodie Wild. That's what I'm going with. It was going to be those 3 prospects going to Vancouver for JT Miller, and a probably absurd contract that he wants for a good season he had last year, yes, but is he going to be able to do that for the rest of his career? Because 2 years ago, we were talking about how Jim Benning made a terrible decision acquiring JT Miller as a cap dump from the Tampa Bay Lightning and trading a first-round pick. And now when all of a sudden this kid is, JT Miller is the crown and everybody bowed down to him and he is the savior. Come on, guys. Be realistic. And I think for the Islanders, again, Lou Lamoriello, this trade is going to define what happens over the next 2 years for the Islanders. Now, here's the other camp. Because the Islanders made this move, I think free agency is going to lean more toward the scoring side of things. I don't think Lou was necessarily impressed with the defenseman available in this year's free agency. And he said, listen, this Romanov kid's available. Let's snatch him up. And we are going to go with the mindset of we are going to put full focus. Okay, we've got our defenseman. Let's put full focus now on acquiring our scoring player via trade or free agency this summer. The Islanders are an attractive option. Lou can sell to a free agent. Hey, listen, we're the goddamn New York Islanders. We went to the conference finals 2 straight seasons, lost to the only team in the world that could have beaten us at that time, and that was the Tampa Bay Lightning. Come to our team. We have a really good defense. We have Matt Barzal. We have Anders Lee. We have young guys like Oliver Wahlstrom coming up. The Islanders have guys that they can win with. And I think that if the Islanders add another top scoring winger, they are set. And the Islanders fans will leave them alone. And they will leave Lou alone. He needs to acquire a scoring player. This has been the epitome of the Islanders since before Lou Lamoriello came here. When Garth Snow was here, the Islanders could not get a goal scorer to play with John Tavares, and that is part of the reason JT left. And there's no real debate about that. I can say that very confidently. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. This ended up becoming an Islander video in the second half of this thing. At the end of the day, again, it's hard to judge these trades because how good is Nazar going to be next year? Kirby Dock, maybe he turns it around next season in Montreal. The Islanders, if they win a cup with Romanov and he's a pretty good defenseman, who's going to sit here and criticize this trade if the Islanders win the cup? Again, those are the things you have to consider. At the end of the day, I think the Islanders did the best in this trade. Chicago did second best. And Montreal, I have my qualms about Kirby Dock. But again, they see that third overall pick tag and they think there's something there, and there probably is. And I hope the best for Kirby Dock. He's going to get a new opportunity. And again, for the Islanders, Romanov, as of right now, today, I think a pretty good trade. So we'll see what they sign him for. Guys, as always, thank you so much for watching. And I'll see you again next time.